Hello, we're going to continue with 6-2 today, talking about how to solve systems with substitution. And today we're just going to have to use the distributive property, which makes things just a little more complicated. So the steps start out exactly the same. I need to pick an equation and solve it for a variable. Now usually I'm going to choose the equation that has a variable that has a coefficient of 1. So see here we have y as a coefficient of 1, so I'm going to choose that equation and solve it for y. Now I don't have to do that, but it's going to make things a lot easier if I do it that way. So to solve for y, I have to subtract 6x, so I have y equals negative 6x plus 11. And then what I'm going to do is take that negative 6x plus 11 and plug it in for the y in the other equation. So that gives me 3x plus 2, and then I have my substitution here. 2 times negative 6x plus 11 equals negative 5. And now here's where the distributive property comes in. I have to distribute this 2 through the parentheses. So when I do that, I get 3x plus negative 12x plus 22 equals negative 5. So then if I combine like terms, I got 3x and negative 12x, so that's negative 9x. And then I had to subtract the 22. So I get negative 9x equals negative 27. Divide by negative 9. And I figure out that x is 3. And then I can take that, okay, and plug it in either to my original equations, or I can plug it into the one that I solved for a variable on. It doesn't really matter which one, I should get the same answer. I like to use this one just because I think it's a little bit easier. So I'm going to get y equals negative 18 plus 11. So y is negative 7. So my answer here would be the ordered pair 3, negative 7. Now once again I want to check that to make sure it's right. So if I plug that in, I'm just going to do that up here real quick. I'd have, let's see, negative 7 plus 6 times 3 equals 11. And that's negative 7 plus 18, so that works. And then I'd have 3 times 3 plus 2 times negative 7 equals negative 5, so that's what, 9 plus negative 14 equals negative 5, and that also works. So my answer would be 3, negative 7. Let's look at another example here. Now once again, I'm going to choose this top equation to solve it for y because it has a y that has a coefficient of 1. So I'm going to add 2x to both sides. So I have y equals 2x plus 8. So then I take the 2x plus 8 and I plug it in for the y in the other equation. So then I have 3x plus 2 times 2x plus 8 equals 9. So then once again I have to distribute. So then I have 3x plus 4x plus 16 equals 9. So if I combine like terms, 3x and 4x, I get 7x plus 16 equals 9. I gotta subtract 16. So 7x is negative 7. So then I divide by 7. and figure out that x is -1. And then once again I take that, plug it back in over here, so I'll have y equals 2 times -1 plus 8. So that's going to be -2 plus 8, which comes out to be 6. So my solution is the ordered pair -1, 6. Once again, if I check that, I have -2 times -1 plus 6 equals 8, and that works. And then 3 times -1 plus 2 times 6 equals 9. Well, that's going to be -3 plus 12 equals 9, and that works. So my answer would be the ordered pair -1, 6. Okay? Now, the next thing we have to talk about is our favorite story problems. So here, once again, we're going to be looking at the story problem to write two equations, and then we're going to solve those using substitution. So one cable television provider has a $60 setup fee and $80 per month. So the cost for that one would be the $60 setup fee plus $80 per month. The second one has a $160 equipment fee plus $70 per month. So the question is, in how many months will the cost be the same, and what will that cost be? Alright, so let's start with that one first. You can see we have another question, but we'll deal with that later. So these are both already solved for y, so I can take this right here and plug it in for the y. So then I'd end up with 60 plus 80x equals 160 plus 70x. So if I get my x's on the same side here, I have 60 plus 10x equals 160. Then I subtract 60. So 10x equals 100. Divide by 10. So x equals 10. So I know, first of all, that it's going to take 10 months before the cost is the same. Now I also have to figure out y, because the y represents the cost. So I'm going to take my x value, plug it back in up here. So that's going to give me 160 plus 700. So that cost is going to be $860. So my answer would be 10 months and then $860. Now notice here, it asks in part B, if you're going to move in 6 months, which would be the cheaper option? Now all we have to do there is take our original equations and plug in 6 months. And that will tell us which the cheaper option is. So this would be 60 plus 80 times 6, which is 60 plus 480, which would equal $540. So the first cable company for 6 months cost $540. Here I'd have 160 plus 70 times 6, which would be 160 plus 420, and that's going to be $580. So if I'm going to move in 6 months, so here's my answer to part A, here's my answer to part B, the cheaper option is going to be the first company, because I would only pay $540 instead of $580. Okay, so story problems there often have two parts to them. First is just finding the ordered pair that works, and then it will usually ask you about the cheaper option. And see here it says explain. If I showed my work, and of course this would be a little more organized if I was using notebook paper, showing my work here on part B like I did in the black, that would be my explanation. Okay? So here's a story problem for you. This one I just want you to try to solve it on your own, and tomorrow when I see you in class I want you to tell me what you think the answer will be. Okay? And other than that, that's it for 6-2 part 2, and I will see you tomorrow.